My presentation will cover how to calculate the break-even point, and it will also discuss some of the ways it can be helpful to a business. The break-even point is defined as the point at which the revenue of a business equals its costs. This formula calculates the number of units you will need to sell in order to break even. This is the break-even formula, and it starts with break-even points or units are equal to the fixed costs divided by the revenue per unit minus the variable costs per unit. Fixed costs include both expenses and depreciation, and you just need to add them together. But be sure to place these values in parentheses in the Excel formula or it won't calculate correctly. Revenue per unit is the price or cost of each ukulele. We will be testing out 3 different prices to see how each one affects the break-even point. Variable costs per unit is found in the assumptions box. So here we are at the projected financial statements for the ukulele company, and we're going to be looking at the month of January, and we're going to calculate the break-even point when the price of the units, the ukuleles, are $150, $185, and $210. So we start here in this cell, and we start our formula with an equals, and then as I mentioned previously, we need to put the fixed costs in parentheses. So we'll be adding the general expenses and the depreciation. But in order for this formula to work right, we also need to anchor the cell so that it won't slide across when we move our formula across. So I anchored that one, and then I'm going to add this one and anchor that. And then we divide this by the price, the revenue per unit, minus the variable cost. And then we put that in parentheses as well. So I forgot to do that over here. And then we hit return. And there we are. We have 22 units need to be sold in the month of January before breaking even. So now we can drag this across and each of these will calculate. So you can see that when you get to $210 per unit, you only need to sell 12 units, whereas with $150, you have to sell 22. So let's also do the annual calculation for some extra practice. So it equals again in parentheses, and we take the general expenses, anchor them, and then add the depreciation and anchor that as well. And parenthesis divided by parenthesis the revenue per unit minus the variable cost per unit, and then we enter it. So now we find that we have 263 units must be sold each year in order to break even when the units are sold for $150. But that goes down all the way to 142 when the price is 210. So let's test this out a little bit. If we want to find out whether we got the numbers right, we can plug them into our calculations here. So we can put the price as 150 and hit return, and then we can put the number of units per month down here in the sales units. So equals, and go back up here to this one. And now we look here and we see that the net income has become 0, which means that our revenues are equal to our costs. So revenues minus costs equals 0. That means that's the break-even point. And any money that you take in after this, or any units that you sell after this, will become profitable to you. So then I have just one more thing. So this is a little bit of analysis about how the break-even point helps a business. So calculating the break-even point will let a business know at what point they will begin to be profitable. It's important to use this formula before starting a business or when introducing new products. The results help a business to see if their prices or costs might need to be adjusted. It can also help them to determine whether their business is sustainable or not. The break-even formula can also support them in making plans for the future and setting realistic goals. This presentation was obtained from the article we read in class, Break-Even Point Formula and Analysis, How to Calculate BEP for Your Business, by Colleen Egan. Thank you so much for watching my presentation, and I hope you found it helpful.